Numbers, chapter 33. These are the journeyings of the sons of Israel who have come out of the land of Egypt, by their hosts, by the hand of Moses and Aaron. And Moses writes their outgoings by their journeys by the command of Yahweh, and these are their journeys by their outgoings. And they journey from Rameses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. From the day after the Passover, the sons of Israel have gone out with a high hand before the eyes of all the Egyptians. And the Egyptians are burying those whom Yahweh has struck among them, every firstborn, and Yahweh has done judgments on their gods. And the sons of Israel journey from Rameses and encamp in Succoth. And they journey from Succoth and encamp in Etham, which is in the extremity of the wilderness. And they journey from Etham and turn back over Pi-Hahiroth, which is on the front of al-Zephon, and they encamp before Migdol. And they journey from Pi-Hahiroth and pass over through the midst of the sea into the wilderness, and go a journey of 3 days into the wilderness of Etham, and encamp in Marah. And they journey from Marah and come to Elim, and 12 fountains of waters and 70 palm trees are in Elim, and they encamp there. And they journey from Elim and encamp by the Red Sea. And they journey from the Red Sea and encamp in the wilderness of Sin. And they journey from the wilderness of Sin and encamp in Dophkah. And they journey from Dophkah and encamp in Alush. And they journey from Alush and encamp in Rephidim, and there was no water there for the people to drink. And they journey from Rephidim and encamp in the wilderness of Sinai. And they journey from the wilderness of Sinai and encamp in Kibroth-Hattaavah. And they journey from Kibroth-Hattaavah and encamp in Hazeroth. And they journey from Hazeroth and encamp in Rithmah. And they journey from Rithmah and encamp in Rimmon-Parez. And they journey from Rimmon-Parez and encamp in Libnah. And they journey from Libnah and encamp in Rissah. And they journey from Rissah and camp in Kehelathah. And they journey from Kehelathah and encamp in Mount Shapher. And they journey from Mount Shapher and encamp in Horidah. And they journey from Horidah and encamp in Makheloth. And they journey from Makheloth and encamp in Tahath. And they journey from Tahath and encamp in Tarah. And they journey from Tarah and encamp in Mithkah. And they journey from Mithkah and encamp in Hashmanah. And they journey from Hashmanah and encamp in Moseroth. And they journey from Moseroth and encamp in Bene-Jaakan. And they journey from Bene-Jaakan and encamp at Hor-Hagidgad. And they journey from Hor-Hagidgad and encamp in Jotbathah. And they journey from Jotbathah and encamp in Ebronah. And they journey from Ebronah and encamp in Ezion-Gaber. And they journey from Ezion-Gaber and encamp in the wilderness of Zin, which is Kadesh. And they journey from Kadesh and encamp in Mount Hor, in the extremity of the land of Edom. And Aaron the priest goes up to Mount Hor by the command of Yahweh, and dies there in the 40th year of the going out of the sons of Israel from the land of Egypt, in the 5th month, on the 1st of the month. And Aaron is a son of 123 years in his dying on Mount Hor. And the Canaanite, King Arad, who is dwelling in the south in the land of Canaan, hears of the coming of the sons of Israel. And they journey from Mount Hor and encamp in Zalmanah. And they journey from Zalmanah and encamp in Punan. And they journey from Punan and encamp in Oboth. And they journey from Oboth and encamp in Ije-Abarim, in the border of Moab. And they journey from Im and encamp in Dibon-Gad. And they journey from Dibon-Gad and encamp in Almon-Diblathaim. And they journey from Almon-Diblathaim and encamp in the mountains of Abarim, before Nebo. And they journey from the mountains of Abarim and encamp in the plains of Moab by the Jordan, near Jericho. And they encamp by the Jordan from Beth-Jeshimoth as far as Abel-Shittim, in the plains of Moab. And Yahweh speaks to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan, near Jericho, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel. And you have said to them, When you are passing over the Jordan to the land of Canaan, then you have dispossessed all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and have destroyed all their imagery. Indeed, you destroy all their molten images, and you lay waste to all their high places. And you have possessed the land and dwelt in it, for I have given the land to you to possess it. And you have inherited the land by lot, by your families. To the many you increase their inheritance, and to the few you diminish their inheritance. To where the lot goes out to him, it is his. You inherit by the tribes of your fathers. And if you do not dispossess the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it has been that those whom you let remain of them are for pricks in your eyes, and for thorns in your sides, and they have distressed you on the land in which you are dwelling. And it has come to pass, as I thought to do to them, I do it to you.